In this edition of the Resilient Professional Podcast, we're talking energy, the necessary ingredient to achieve both professional and personal goals and objectives. But did you know that there are positive forms of energy, just like there are positive forms of relaxation and renewal, and negative forms of energy and negative forms of disengagement? So in this podcast, listen on as we talk about the positive forms to be aware of and the negative forms to stay away from. Welcome to the Resilient Professional Podcast. Professional success really is a game of inches. You have the experience and knowledge, but you realize that professional success is more than just knowledge and experience. It's actually applying what you already know. It's about consistently applying what you know in spite of the challenges that are sure to come your way. You know, Olympians know how to battle adversity and to perform at their best, even in the midst of setbacks and frustrations. I think we can learn a lot from the Olympian mindset. It really is about the cultivation of resiliency. Physical resiliency, emotional resiliency, relational resiliency, cognitive resiliency, resiliency in each aspect of our lives. On a regular basis, we'll unpack these ideas through guest speakers and podcast material that will take you to the next level of professional success. Well, in this edition of the Resilient Professional Podcast, we're going to look at harnessing your personal energy. Now, this is really a critical component to the Resilient Professional program because without energy, quite frankly, we're not able to get anything done. Well, at least we're not able to sustain ongoing focus and energetic effort to accomplish our goals and objectives. So we're going to talk about some critical strategies for harnessing our personal energy. Now, before we get into this, it's really critical to focus on an important area even before we start talking about our own personal energy management. And that's focusing on some very powerful missions and purposes in our life. We've put together a program that goes through the whole exercise of cultivating purpose, cultivating mission and vision, and then it links into some very concrete methodology for goal achievement. So let's focus on some practical aspects of marshaling your personal energy in order to act in the real world, because ultimately that's where things get done, right? We can spend a lot of time doing some navel gazing and dreaming about our purposes and visions and missions, but ultimately we have to put it in action, and that's where our personal energy comes into play. Now, some people may use other words for personal energy. It could be life force or personal power or passion or dynamism. But whatever you call it, it's the ability to consistently follow through in a purposeful way, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, to accomplish the important missions, purposes, or goals that you want to accomplish in your life. That could be in your personal life, your organizational, professional life. It could be in your community or family life. Now, your success, however you define it, is achieved by having the ability to fight through difficulty and inertia, the natural challenges that are sure to come your way. Missions and goals are not usually given to us on a silver platter. We have to work for them. And we normally have to have the energy to accomplish them. Energy is a necessary prerequisite to accomplishing anything. So let's take a look at some of these key strategies, and a lot of these ideas are unpacked in wonderful detail in the book called The Power of Full Engagement by Jim Lohr and Tony Schwartz. So let's look at strategy 1. First of all, full resiliency and energy optimization requires drawing on 4 distinct but connected dimensions of energy. Now, very often we can make some really quick resiliency improvements in the domain of physical energy just simply through diet, exercise, and recovery. Just seeking renewal and adequate rest. It's amazing how much better you can feel if you get a good night's sleep. Eat a little bit, and it's spiritual. And all 4 dynamics are critical. None is sufficient in itself, and each profoundly influences the others. So we must skillfully manage each of these interconnected dimensions of energy. Now, you subtract any one of them from the equation, and your capacity to fully ignite your talent and skills diminished. It's much the same way that an engine sputters when one of its cylinders misfires. So we have an energy quadrant chart actually in the show notes page to this podcast. And that chart depicts the various dynamics of energy, from low to high, from negative to positive. And the more toxic and unpleasant the energy, the less effectively it serves performance, and the more positive and pleasant the energy, the more efficient and effective it is. And full engagement and maximum performance are possible only in the high positive quadrant. So if you look at energy and focused energy, The high positive quadrant is invigoration, we're confident, we're challenged, we're joyful, and we're connected. And when we're in a relaxed state, when we don't have to be on, an effective renewal state would be relaxation, we're mellow, we're peaceful, we're tranquil, we're serene. If we look at high negative energy, a lot of the times the states will come across as anger, fear, anxiety or anxiousness, defensiveness, and being resentful. And low negative energy can come across as depressed, exhaustion, burned out, hopelessness, and feeling depleted. So take a look at that energy quadrant just for a visual representation of what I'm talking about. Now, the importance of full engagement is most vivid in situations where the consequences of disengagement are profound. Imagine for a moment that you're facing open heart surgery. What energy quadrant do you want your surgeon to be in? How would you feel if the surgeon entered the operating room feeling angry, frustrated, and anxious? That would be high positive, or high negative, I mean. How about overworked, exhausted, and depressed? That'd be low positive. And what if your surgeon was disengaged, mellow, and slightly spacey? Low positive. Obviously, you want your surgeon energized, confident, upbeat, which is high positive. Imagine for a moment that every time and reflect. How are you doing in each area? Take some time to review it and see how it applies to your own personal life. If you're spending too much time in the red and purple quadrants, which are not really all that effective quadrants to be in, then you get a lot of benefit from reflecting on this aspect. And in fact, I'd encourage you to download the Resilient Professional ebook that unpacks this information in greater detail. Now, as the book entitled The Power of Full Engagement emphasizes, we hold ourselves accountable for the ways that we manage our time, or for that matter, our money. And we must really learn to hold ourselves at least equally accountable for how we manage our energy. And again, in all aspects, the physical aspects, the emotional aspects, the mental, and the spiritual aspects of our life.
Well, I hope you found that discussion on the energy quadrants helpful. So again, as I mentioned before, I'd encourage you to take a look at each of the major areas of your life and to see which energy quadrant you're typically functioning out of. As an example, you could have work relationships where things are working really, really well. And in fact, when you look at it, you're functioning out of very healthy, both energetic and relaxation quadrants. But specifically, you might have relationships in your life that are really challenging, and you find that you act defensively, you have anger, a lot of negative emotions. And so use that as a cue to begin focusing on an intentional game plan to see how you can move your life more and more to positive energetic quadrants and to positive relaxation quadrants. That concludes this edition of the Resilient Professional Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. For more free resources on being a resilient professional, be sure to visit our website at www.takechargeofchange.com.